podcast. On today's episode, I'm joined by my good friend Anika, and we talk about all things nature, energy, and love. I hope you enjoy. Hello, Anika.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very excited to have you on. This will be a good conversation, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here.
Why, thank you. So, topic of today is nature, because that's what you're all about. And although nature for me, I love it, I appreciate it because it gives me life. It's not exactly my, what's the word I'm looking for? Forte?
Passion?
Passion, that'll do. But it is yours, so I'm intrigued. But what I love is seeing a lot of people following their passion. And especially like when me and you are out or we're in nature, like the love you radiate for it is incredible, and that's what I love, because love's my thing, nature's your thing. So yeah, like why do you I guess we'll start with why do you love nature? It's probably a good place to start. Like, or when did you first realize that you like had this really strong connection with nature?
When did I first realize it? That's a good question. I've always been really intrigued with the beauty and how divine nature is, because there's like so many different kinds of plants, and they all work in different ways, and they're all beautiful in their own ways. Like trees are these huge lungs of the earth, and within a forest there's like all these different plants, bushes and vines and flowers and mushrooms or fungi, and everything works together, and it's just so divine. But I don't know when it first started. I know when I was a kid I wasn't all that fascinated, and when I was a teenager either. It must have been when I moved to Sweden, and okay, I know. I was living in North Sweden where there was a lot of forests and nature everywhere. And then I moved to the Netherlands, and for those of you who have never been to the Netherlands, it's mostly just farmland.
It's flat.
And cities. It's flat.
Yeah, it's real flat.
And I was living in this town, and there was like no nature. There was no forests. There was no, like, okay, there's handmade nature in the sense that they would plant trees on the roads, and then you could go to parks, but there's no like natural nature with biodiversity. And when I moved from the Netherlands, well, first to Scotland and then back to Sweden, I realized that it's really important to me, and it gives me so much energy.
Yeah. Because
you can just look at anything, either like at the large scale or at the small scale, and it's absolutely, or the micro scale. I haven't been there yet, but it's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I'd agree with that's like how I feel when I'm in nature. I definitely feel like I just gain this like energy it's not even gain energy, it just clears my energy. It's like if I'm like feeling like really crap, or like I'm like not a fan of this, it's something like something's bothering me. If I go and like just take a walk in the middle of nowhere, like I just all of a sudden feel better, and I have this real like clear channel with myself afterwards, and like just with the universe in general. And once that's happened, I'm like, oh, nice. Like I know exactly what my goals are. Like I know what my purposes are. Like what I really want and what I'm working towards. Like my ego just kind of drifts back out of sight again. And yeah, there's something about being around like the creation of life, but in so many different forms, that will provide for you in such a way. But then at the same time, you're given to them, and it's a balance, you know, as all things are. But I think there's a real disconnect for most people in nature. Like people don't appreciate it, and especially recently, like I was walking after I dropped my car off at the garage a couple weeks ago, and I was walking back to my work at the time, and there's just rubbish everywhere. And like, it really pissed me off because I'm like, this gives you life. Like, it literally gives you life. Like, if you didn't have trees, you didn't have grass, you didn't have plants, like, you would be dead. Like, that has to be there. And you're just gonna treat it like absolute shit. Like, they don't do anything to you. They don't come into your gaff and start chucking shit about. It's like, it made no sense to me, and I was like, why is that? And I came back to like the self-appreciation, and like people don't have an appreciation for themselves first and foremost. So like they don't see the point in love anyway. So they're like, well, what's like, I don't care. But then because you don't have that self-appreciation, you don't have appreciation for the things around you. So I was like, I get why it's like that, but it's so not okay. Like, especially on the scale that it is.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can look at it through just individuals polluting, like, leaving garbage.
Yeah.
But then you can kind of zoom out and go to how the industries, big corporations are polluting. Or even how people are polluting in different ways, more than just garbage. Like, when you fly, or when you consume certain products, or certain, like, meat.
Yeah.
It pollutes. And it doesn't matter where on the scale it is. There's still like this consequence that happens, but I think there's a lot of things that we can't avoid as a society that we're in now. Like, for example, me. I have family all over the world. My closest family is in Canada and Sweden, and yeah, I could just not visit them to save on the CO2, but like, you know, they're family.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, we talk about CO2, because we had a conversation with this the other day. It's like, plants need CO2 to live. So, like, I don't think CO2 is so much the issue, because it's a balance, but it's like using sustainable shit rather than like plastic and chucking it about everywhere. Like, hemp's been around for thousands of years, and it's one of the most incredible substances ever. Completely sustainable. That you can grow it
super quick.
Yeah, super quick within a season. Like, and you can, the structure in which you can form it into is incredible, and the strength of the structure as well is incredible. Like, there's so much stuff that it can be used for. Literally anything that you can think of that's made out of plastic, you can make out of hemp. And it doesn't, once you leave it or you get rid of it, it doesn't just like sit there for thousands of years and go, oh nice, I'm not going to do it, I'm just going to chill here. Like, it gets rid of itself and it gives back to the earth again. And it's like all these things, but that then comes down to big corporations because there's profit to be made.
Yeah, the profit.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that are involved in whatever is being made. And right now, I mean, I don't know how many people are with plastic, but there's a lot of products that are being made, and if they're going to make a shift, then those people also have to be able to move with the shift in the change of products or technology. But like you said with the balance, if you shift it in what's being produced, there's still going to be CO2.
Yeah.
But we have to, this is my cat, Reese.
Hey, bud.
So the balance is that the problem with the balance is that we're taking way more from the earth than we're giving back, and that's the problem. Because we're also causing a lot of extra pollution, and then on top of that we're taking all these resources. Like, palm oil is this huge industry. Palm oil is in everything you eat, almost everything you eat, almost everything you consume, and it's also used in biofuels, and like, it's supposed to be better because it's natural and not fossil fuels, but the way that the industry works is that they burn for rainforests, and then the rainforests not only like can't produce the oxygen because the trees are gone, but there's also like these huge peatlands that are being burned, and that releases CO2. So like, they're taking away the lungs, and they're also causing the they're also causing the CO2, and that happens all over the world. And I think that the biggest thing is that there's like such a disconnect from nature, that people aren't really realizing their actions or realizing how big of an impact these actions have. And what I believe is if everybody can find that connection to nature again, they'll become a lot more aware, at least, of what they're doing. And with corporations, they, even though they have way more power than an individual, people still buy from them.
Yeah.
And if, like with the vegan movement, you can see that there's been a shift. So now a lot of companies, even like big restaurants like McDonald's or Burger King, they're making vegan stuff.
Yeah.
So as a mass, if we all decide we're not going to consume these products, we're going to consume this way, or we're going to advocate for change, like also paper and plastic straws is a great step.
Yeah.
If people fight for what they want, the corporations have to listen because they're all about money. And if people don't want that,
yeah, they're not going to sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, why do you think that is, though? You think it's people like... why do you think people don't already, or it's not? Because there is a push for change. There definitely is. It has become more and more aware, like, I think month by month, not even year by year. But in that area, do you think it's like... for me, I look at it as like they're comfortable. And you're happy being comfortable. You're like, no, I like the things I like. And like that state of comfort doesn't affect change. It affects the complete opposite. And it affects, like, makes you static. And like, I'm trying to think of a better word. I know there's better words for this, but yeah, I think getting comfortable and people being comfortable in their way of life, so to say, is the issue surrounding that, and the reason there is no change. You have to get used to being uncomfortable. Because that's where change is made. That's where beauty happens. That's where you learn. That's where you grow. And that's for an individual sense. But like if everyone did that as a whole, the whole earth learns and grows as a whole, and everything moves forward as a whole. Because, I mean, I don't have to tell you this, but we are all one. We have individualism, in the sense of we have our own souls and we have our own journeys. But we are all connected as one. And that doesn't just mean people, that means nature, animals. That means everything. Absolutely everything in the universe is one. And people are disconnected from that, and I think that mainly plays off the ego. And the ego really comes in and goes, nah, you're better than everyone else. Like, we are it. We're the shit, so to say. Which then people think they're better than nature, or better than animals, or they have more of a reason to be alive than animals. Like, people who think that, oh, it's just a dog. Like, that dog has a soul. A dog has feelings, emotions. Just because he can't put it into English for you, and you're not like present enough to realize what that dog's actually telling you, doesn't mean that dog doesn't try to tell you something. Like, there's a great video of this dog and this chick, and she gets all these like buttons, and the dog presses the buttons to speak to her. And I'm like, how can you say a dog is less than you if you can teach the dog, right, this button means this button means this, and this button, and it can go ahead and press them in order. And it goes like, hey, mum, walkies. Like, that's what it wants. Like, the dog can tell you what it wants. So to think that an animal's less than you blows my mind. And the same thing with nature. Like, to think that nature's less than you blows my mind.
I mean, you can still see it just with people. Like, if I've in a workplace I used to be in, there was staff that I worked with, and we had clients, and some of these clients came from China, and their English wasn't that good, but you could still understand them. And of course, the staff that I worked with were really nice to these clients up front. But then behind the doors where they couldn't hear, they would make fun of these people, and they would think that they're stupid. And it's like, just because they can't speak your language doesn't mean they're any less than you.
Yeah, and that comes back to the ego.
Yeah, but 100%. It's like, it really frustrates me because I really want people to start caring for the things that are around them. And like, I realized this when I was, I think, 19, that people aren't going to care about animals if they don't care about themselves. Yeah. People are definitely not going to care about nature. Because nature doesn't even like... That's like, it's so far to the animals at least show you some kind of response. Yeah, they move and I mean, nature has got like its own beautiful dance, but you have to be a lot more attentive to see that. Yeah, absolutely. A lot more presence here as well. Humans are weird, man. That's like the best way to put it.
But it's like not a bad weird, it's a beautiful weird, because we've been given the, like, unlike a lot of other species, we've been given the ability for free choice. Free choice makes a fucking hell of a difference. Like, it really does. And when you have the ability to make decisions that people see as bad, or people see as like, that's not the right decision, well, who's to say that's not the right decision? Like, look, society doesn't believe that whatever you've just done is correct, and I might look at it and go, I wouldn't do that myself. Like, I wouldn't go out and kill someone. No. But you did. But, like, why did you do that? There's reason, there's intent, and you have free will to make that choice. There's consequences for each choice you make. And that comes full circle. So, like, there's consequences for every time you, like, driving down, you've just had something and you chuck out the window. Like, your rappers or whatever. There's consequences for that. It comes back to you. And people don't realise that. Like, there is a full circle. Like, if you want to sit and you want to disrespect the thing that gives you life, it's going to come back to you. And the thing that gives you life is going to go, well, fuck you. You don't respect me. I'm not going to respect you the same. Like, you don't deserve my energy. You don't respect my energy. And, I mean, that is mother nature. It's going to go into the same thing. I think that's, like, a lot of what, like, diseases and stuff come from. Is the earth going, I'm sick of this shit. Like, look after me. Yeah. You have everything we will ever need to cure any disease, everything can all be found in nature. All of it. And people think that, like, oh no, we have to do pharmaceuticals and we have to do this, that, and the next thing. I'm like there's benefits to it. And it's impressive that you can see the human evolution and in the sense of, like, technology and these things. But even at that, my real view on that is most of this stuff's channeled. Like, most of, like, technology's innovation, all these stuff, like, people don't realise this is what it is. But when they get an idea in their head and they go, oh, it's the imagination that's brought this to existence. But I think really what they're doing is the universe is like, we already have everything for you. But we're not going to give you the right things until you're ready to have these things. So I think that comes back to, like, this whole idea of, like, moving into the dimensions or whatever. I don't really care too much to look into that, but like, this idea of, like, we're in the 3rd/4th dimension at the moment, and to get into the 5D or so it's put, to get into the 5th dimension, you have to come back to this place of love, because it cannot allow us to play with these beings, so to say, or to be around these beings, when we are going to come with them with so much hatred, fear, all these emotions that don't benefit them. Why would they go, oh yeah, come join us? When more than likely, if they give us the ability to do that right now, most people are going to go in there and just greed. Yeah. And they're going to come at it from a place of fear. They're going to come at it from a place of whatever, for their own personal benefit, but they don't realise that it's collective. Yeah, I don't really know where I was going to go with that point, but I was saying something, so we'll move on. Yeah, the coexistence of nature and humans is kind of almost what we're talking about there. But, like, how do you see it, nature and well, we are nature, but how do you see humans and the work and humans? I'm gonna cut that and re-say that because fuck her, I can't speak properly. How do you see humans and the world around them coexisting properly, like how it should be? Like, how in your vision, if I was to be like, if I give you all the tools you need, like, if you speak to everyone, you have the influence, everyone will listen to you, what ways would you go about making the change?
Well, first of all, the change is within.
Yeah.
Which you know. So it would be, again, people reconnecting to nature and feeling how divine it is and really appreciating it. And I think the first misconception that a lot of people have is that we live on this earth and the resources are for us to take. And yeah, we are here to take resources, but the earth is giving to us. It's not like a treasure box that we just take whatever and like, and with all kinds of relationships we have, it's two ways. So if the earth is giving us food, if the earth is giving us air, if it's giving us water, these things that we need to live, we also have to give back.
Yeah.
The least we can do is give back respect.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, people really have to see the beauty in what they have and cherish it more and be less wasteful in what they do and how they consume.
Yeah.
There's so many things that nobody needs, and like what you were saying with greed, I think part of it coming from a place of lack. Like, there's so many people that if you just open stores and say take whatever you need, they would go crazy.
Yeah.
But then there's so many places that they have like an honor system, or they just like, there's so many places that just say take whatever you need, but because these people feel safe and secure in what they have, then they just take what they need. They're not going to take literally everything and empty the place. And I feel like in the kinds of places we've lived, there's this always pressing fear that if you don't work hard, if you don't do as you're told, and make a lot of money, you're going to be lacking. Yeah. And then that mindset kind of overlays into the way you buy things, the way, I guess, you consume things. Like, I'm also guilty of it, of taking and buying more than I need because I want to feel safe, because there might be a time where I don't have any of those things, and it's better to have more. But it can get excessive, and a lot of people, including me, we take too much.
Yeah.
And
we don't give enough.
Again, there's nothing wrong with taking, but we have to give back. Whether it's through, making sure that your community has some kind of sustainable development or sustainable programs where they're planting trees for every housing or development area. Somewhere else they're putting more nature.
Yeah.
Or even like having these kinds of community gardens, because then you're giving to nature. Because you have these community gardens and you'll have your cucumbers and tomatoes, and as long as you're not like a menace, the squirrels will also have some food, and the birds will have some food, and the bugs will have some food, and you are giving, and you're also giving that energy back instead of just taking and moving away from that connection.
So, on an individual basis, like, we want people to understand this from within, but if you were to give someone like if they were to do like 3 things a week, just very simple, basic as you can be, like the starting steps for people, because it comes from within, but like a lot of people are going like, well, how do I do that? Like, how do I get back to nature? Like, I understand that it's an inward process, you're saying this, but like, how do I go about that? And like, I, at least for me, like when it comes to nature, you're easily the best person I could ask about this. Just not, well, I mean, other than the fact you're my best friend, like the reason I have you on here, because I want to talk about nature, because like I said, like you say, there's such a disconnect with nature and with people. And I think it's really important to highlight. So if you have like a couple of things that, like, even if it's just one, what would it be? Well,
because everybody's different, and different things catch different people's eyes. I would suggest go outside, and if it's in the most nature you can find or just around the block, find somewhere that has nature, whether it's just a bush in someone's garden or a mountain or, I don't know, a sheep.
Yeah.
Anything that comes from Mother Earth, and just observe it and really look at it and find something that catches your eye. So say I went for a walk. Here there's like front gardens. So in that I could look at this bush, and it's not really springtime, but I could just look at this bush and just look at it, and I'm quite sure in this bush I would see, first of all, leaves, if not maybe just sticks.
Yeah.
If it's sticks because it's cold and snowy, look at the shape of the sticks, like these branches. like trees, they have like their own like artistic expression, and that is so cool. They're individuals, and when the leaves are shed, you can see how they're expressing themselves.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing if it was just a bush of sticks or if it's leaves. Look at how the veins are. Look at how they're shaped and how each one is so similar but slightly different. Or if there's little buds coming. Or you can look at the bugs. There's like super cute green bugs, and then there's beetles or ants, and just like watch an ant. Even you can just walk on the sidewalk and watch an ant just cross and just follow. Maybe, he'll like go up a little mountain or go down and find like a piece of food and pick it up and take it somewhere. Just find anything living and look at it. And like,
yeah,
there's something so amazing about all of it.
Yeah, I can agree.
You just have to find, like, even water. Water's not technically living. I mean, it's debatable. That's different. But I like to just look at water and how it moves, because it hits different things and it'll cause different ripples.
It flows or it crashes. That's the way I water. So water either flows or it crashes. But even when it crashes, it then goes back to a flow state because Yeah. And then like how the light goes, or you can look at the clouds and just how cool it is that this invisible force just pushes water that's like just hanging out in the sky. Like, what is that? That's so weird, but like amazing. Yeah. It's just like water in the sky and this invisible force is pushing it. Or look at the wind and like how it moves the trees, and the trees have their own dance. Or you can listen to the wind through, the Netherlands is super windy. Oh yeah. But you can hear the wind in the trees when it rustles the leaves. That's my favorite sound in the world. And they all have different sounds, and like you can use all of your senses. If you want to go and smell flowers or smell fresh cut grass, just find something that you connect to and do that 3 times a day. Or not 3 times, if you want, but like you can do that 3 times a week. You can just go for a walk and find something else to look at and observe and be present with. Yeah, I'd absolutely agree with that. And like, I've been doing it a lot more. Like I used to, like when I was walking along doing something, just pull up my phone and like scroll through utter shit. And now I'm like, why? Why would I pull up my phone? Like I'm walking, like I'm just observing the world around me. Not even just with nature. In the sense of plants and stuff, but like with people. Like I love watching people. It's so fascinating to me, because like for you, your fascination is plants, but my fascination is energy and people mainly, and like love as a whole. But people really fascinate me in the way they do things and why they do things. Like there's no two people that do the exact same thing the exact same. They do it slightly differently, and like you can tell when someone's loving something they're doing, and you can tell when someone's like, I don't want to do this. And even though they might not be shown on their face, you can tell by their body expressions and their movement. It's the same thing with nature. Like you can tell when a plant's like thriving and like happy in its environment, but you can also tell when a plant's like, I don't want to be here. Like this is not the environment for me. And there's a real beauty, like you said, there's a real beauty we just take like observing. Because at the end of the day, we are observers. Like although we're creators in a sense, and the fact that we have the ability to not create but manipulate energy, because energy can't be created or destroyed, I don't think. But we have a real gift to be able to manipulate energy in such a way that we can make forms of stuff. And whether that be like manipulating the energy within us and healing our own selves through many different practices, or whether it be through manipulating the energy of like the plants in your room to like make sure that they're receiving the best nutrients. So like you move them about the room so they get the best sunlight. You're still manipulating energy in a way. You're just using your physical body to do so as well. Like you'll probably see me do it a lot. Like I sit on my hands and I just go like this, and that's because I feel the energy moving about in my hands. Like I'm not doing anything with it. I'm just bouncing it about like it's a ball, but like it has weight to me. Which, if I try and explain that to someone, it's a really weird concept for them to understand. But when you're present enough to like take in, because everything's energy, so when you're present enough to take it in, and you're present enough to feel it and feel what it really is, then you understand that there's weight to it. Like
And it's the same thing when you observe stuff, because
Yeah,
everything is
exactly.
energy. When you're present
Yeah.
with it, the weight that you speak about is the energy, and you can see that it's not just something in the background.
Yeah.
It has its own life and energy and story, and like I also love people watching so much, but sometimes like I have to take a step back because I get too overwhelmed, because I sit and think about how everybody has their own life and their own stories, and like
their own perspectives.
Perspectives and things going on, and each and every single person on that bus or in that park is like got like years of whatever, and it's a lot. But what I'm trying to say is, when you observe, you can also feel or start to understand that weight, that energy, that life force.
Yeah, that's very well said. So your internship thing that you started, I would ask you about that, because like, although you mentioned it to me, I've never really asked you about it properly. I've never really been like, so what is it you're doing? Like, I understand that you're the intern place itself, the way you're ever working. You can tell me a bit more, but I understand basically the rough idea is you're taking companies or people that work for companies and putting them back into nature.
Okay, so
sorry, kind of.
The actual internship that I'm doing, or I did, it's been completed now, that was just one project that I was doing. Otherwise, it's more about raising awareness in different places of development and different spheres. But the specific project that I was passionately working with was with education for sustainable development in adults. So what it was different, not companies, I want to say groups or organizations, different organizations in different countries, and they all shared something called the Earth Charter, which is a declaration for not just human rights, but also for the earth. So do you know the Human Rights Declaration?
I mean, I don't know the details of it,
but yeah, it's like a guideline of how things should be done and treated. So they took the Earth Charter and they incorporated it into education for sustainable development in many different ways. So some organizations went through storytelling. So they would tell stories, but then the meaning behind the stories reflected how people should treat the earth, or how the earth should be working with people.
Yeah.
The organizations in Sweden specifically, most of them worked with taking adults, a lot of businessmen, decision makers, company leaders, and they would take them and put them into nature and help them find that connection, either through comparing similar concepts, like how the business cycles work, and compare them to the nature cycles, to see that we're not all that different. Or it would be through reflection and dialogue, a lot of dialogue, but everything, all of these different organizations, the biggest thing was finding a way for people to connect back to the earth. The biggest thing is the connection, and they had different ways of doing it, whether it was storytelling or this going back into nature, or through theater, like playing, like doing improv and playing like games. It's weird because you think like it doesn't connect you to nature, but once you reflect back on what happened, you kind of start to see that there is this connection.
Yeah. I mean, my main thing with, at least with this podcast anyway, and it will be continuously, is to bring people back to themselves first and foremost, through love. And inevitably, slowly can be brought back to nature and all these other things as well. But obviously the way your thing's plants. But I love, I have this, I really can't put it into words. Like it's that expansive. Like I really can't put it into words. How strongly I feel about affecting changing myself and then affecting changing the world around me. Like I have so many ideas, and like people around me, like apart from you and a couple other people, they don't get that about me. Like they're like, oh, you get a job or you do this and that. I'm like, no, I need to like help. I need to help people. Like I help them to help themselves rather. Like that's what I'm here to do. Like I'm here to bring people back to love and like get them to understand the true power of love. And like if you realize that love is not just this emotion, like it's so much vaster. And I spoke about that in my podcast last week, which if you've not seen, go give it a watch. Selfless plug. Love is the key to absolutely everything. And the reason for that is because if you love yourself first and foremost, because it comes from within, if you love yourself, you then start to love nature, you start to love animals, you start to love the things in your life as well. Like there's nothing wrong with loving material items, because they're still formations of energy. Like people get to this point of like the quote unquote enlightenment where they go, oh, like material possessions, and I've been through this point, like material possessions don't mean anything to me, money doesn't mean anything to me, like these are all concepts that I don't care about, like, and to an extent that's okay. Like there's absolutely nothing wrong with going like, oh, I really want that car, because someone's taken the time and energy to design this car, to put it together in such a way where it gives you an experience that isn't like anything else. That's divine in itself. The same way as the formation of nature, like the same way as the formation of each individual plants, like it's been put together in a certain way with energy manipulated into a certain form to create this thing. So like in every aspect of your life, there's no difference whether it's nature, whether it's yourself, whether it's material things. The way in which you choose to love them and appreciate them and have gratitude for them is the exact same. People are so easily and quick to like love everyone around them, and you always will, especially your, like not always, but like especially your family. Like your family is like the people that you're around the most of the time. You're around the most, and your family doesn't have to be blood. Let's make that very clear. Your family is the people who give a shit about you, who are there for you, who spend the time to ask how you're doing, like or check up on you. They don't have to check up on you every day. Like if someone comes and like asks how you're doing every couple of weeks, that person cares. Like it doesn't matter. But at the same time, if you're constantly going out and you're going and asking the person, oh, how you doing, how are things, and they're not giving you anything back, that's not a beneficial relationship for you. Because it's the same thing with giving to nature. Like we have to give back to it. It's a balance.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah, it's a two-way street. Like family are people that will always be there for you no matter what. You're my family, without a doubt. Like, there's no question about that. And then you have people that come and go in your life. They come for a certain time, you'll learn lessons from them. And learn lessons from not them, but the experiences you have with them. Because you're both learning. So, like you said, it's a two-way street. Like, you're always taking something from every situation you're in. And you're always learning and growing. Through positive or negative. And I don't believe in either. I think there just is. Like, I don't see stuff as positive or negative. And there's a great story, and I've seen it a few times recently. So I'll read it. It's not mine, but there's a story about a Chinese farmer, and Chinese farmer gets this new horse to plough his fields, and the horse runs away, and all the villagers come to him and they go, oh, that's a real shame, and the farmer goes, maybe. So then the next day, 7 wild horses come back. This horse had went and grabbed all his buddies, came back. The villagers all come in and they go, oh, that's amazing. The farmer goes, maybe. And then the next day, his son is out with the horses, and one of the wild horses breaks his leg. So all the villagers come back again and they go, that's so horrible. And the farmer goes, maybe. Then the next day, they're coming around to do the call-ups for the war. And his son gets missed out because he has a broken leg. and everyone comes back to him and he goes, oh, that's amazing. And he says, maybe. And the point of that story is that you never know the outcome of something while it's happening. You don't. Like, you have no idea. So a situation cannot be positive or negative because you don't understand the effect that that's going to have in the future.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. And for me, I understand that every single event that happens in my life is exactly the event in which it's meant to be. And I don't question it. And sometimes things don't go how I have it in my head. Like, they don't go perfectly. Whether that be a relationship I have with someone, like, I think, oh, nice, I'm going to be speaking to that person or with that person all the time. And that's not the way it plays out. I don't, like, yeah, I guess, like, you have emotions for a reason. You get sad, you get upset, you feel a certain way about it. But I like to give myself, like, 2 days, like, or a little bit longer. Sit with those emotions. Like, probably for a day, I'll procrastinate, not deal with them. I'll, like, put them off. I'll distract myself. Whatever it might be, like, anything, to not deal with that. Then the next morning when I wake up, I go, alright, this is still bothering me. Like, I can't just leave this. It's not healthy for me. Like, I need to sit with myself. At that point, I don't mean meditate. Like, for me, meditation is a really easy way to deal with shit. But, like, just sit with yourself and even if you want to write it down, you want to, like, sit with a pen and paper and just write down how you're feeling. Or if you want to, like, I like to look myself in the mirror and just speak to myself. And, like, and it's a weird thing because you're speaking to yourself, but you don't feel like you're speaking to yourself. You feel like someone's speaking to you, at least for me anyway. And I truly believe that's the higher aspect in you coming through and going, alright, buddy, like, you're doing great here, but, like, why are you trying to ignore this? Like, you need to deal with this. You need to take the time to experience this. So then, on the second day, I, like, sit and I feel my emotions, like, nice. And then on the third day when I wake up, I'm like, alright, I can't control that, I can't change that, it is what it is. I'm grateful because I know for a fact, in some way, shape, or form, that experience is gonna, I've learned something from it, or I will continue to learn something from it, or something even better is waiting for me. Because I don't know. And the whole idea that people go, oh, I know, like, I know this. Like, you don't. And I was stuck in that way for a long time. The way of thinking of, like, oh, I know everything. Like, or not everything, but, like, I know this for a fact. Or, like, I know that this is what causes, like, I don't know. I have a feeling, like, I have a pretty good, I could take a pretty good guess based off the experiences that I've had and the things I've been through to be like, I'm fairly confident that's the case. But I cannot sit there anymore and say I know. And I was having this conversation with one of my brothers, and we were talking. He was talking to me about it, and he was telling me it, and he was making the point to me like, you do not know. And I was trying to argue it, and I was like, well, no, I do know, because, like, I've had experiences, so I know, because based off my. And we came back to the conclusion that we're both right in what we're saying. Like, the only things that you truly know are the things that you've experienced, but you don't know that that's exactly how it is. And the reason that I say that is because I think that there's been points in my life, especially in my childhood, that I've looked back on and I think are amazing. I go, oh yeah, like, that was great. But when I really be honest with myself and I say to myself, that's not what the situation was like at all. Because we lie to ourselves to make ourselves feel better. So you don't really know 100% what has happened to you. You have a good inclination based off your memory.
There's no truth.
Only
perceptions.
Yeah, but what I will say is what is true is the present. And the present moment, the exact moment that you're in. Like, this conversation right now, us sitting here, the truest thing there is. There is nothing truer. And the second you're sitting watching this, or someone's sitting watching this, and they hear the exact words come out of my mouth in that exact moment, that is true. The second that passes, it's no longer. And what is to come is no longer true. You could sit here and go, in 2 minutes' time, he's going to say this, this, and this. It's not true. You don't know. You have no clue. But what you do know is what I'm actually speaking, what I'm actually portraying. Like, am I right in what I've said? I don't know. But based on my experiences and the way I feel about things, I go, yeah, as the best guess I can take, like, the best shot I can take, I can go. I have this unbelievable feeling in me that I know love is the key. That's not the case for everyone. People aren't going to see it like that. But based off my experiences that I've had with family, with friends, with myself, mainly, that's the most important one, I understand, or have an understanding, that love is the reason that I get to experience, and love is the reason that I've got to where I am. And I have never been happier. Never. Like, it's not possible to go. And I will continue to grow in that sense. Like, I hit a point, and you did as well. We both hit a point towards the end of last year where we both realized, like, oh, there's no turning back now. Like, there's only one way this goes. And, like, yeah, there might be, like, negative situations, but we both understand that these are lessons for us, and these are things that we can grow from and take from. And there's only one way we go, and that's up, and towards what we truly, our hearts truly desire. How we get there is, that's the rate. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm looking forward to. Like, I look forward to like, last week, I'm like, oh, I need to go to the Netherlands. This is my buddy. Like, I had nothing planned. People are like, oh, how are you gonna get it? Like, someone said to me at work, it's like, oh, have you got this, this, and this? I'm like, I didn't even know I needed that. I'm like, leaving in 2 days. I'm like, what? I need to sort out car insurance? Like, damn. I thought I could just drive straight in. So I phoned up my car insurance company, and they're like, yeah, you need to apply for that like 21 days beforehand. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to Netherlands. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Why is that the case? It's not the case at all. So I phoned it back, and I was like, luckily got to a different lady. And some people say this is wrong, but I don't care.
Just don't let your insurance watch this.
Oh, that's a good point. So yeah, great times. Great time, found a way. Let's just say that. Yeah, enough said. Anyhow,
yeah, so circling back to emotions and how you were saying that there's only one way and it's up. I mean, even if people perceive their life to be going down because things aren't going the way they are, I don't think it's down, because life is just about experiences. But more so on emotions, I've come to this, this recent realization that all emotions are so, like, impeccable. Mm-hmm. Obviously the happy ones, the ones that make you, high vibrational, those obviously are great, but sadness is so beautiful. Mm-hmm. Like, anger and jealousy, like, and I don't like going through it, but since I've realized this, how beautiful it is, I've had a very different outlook on it. So, like, say something makes me sad, I'll look at it from a totally different perspective and think, it's pretty cool that I have such a strong love or attachment for whatever it is, that I'm sad. Like, something moved me so much that I'm experiencing these emotions. Or anger, I have so much passion for whatever it is that happened, or so much connection that I'm getting angry. Like, that's so cool that we have these strong ties to evoke these emotions from us. And because, like, if we didn't have these emotions, then what would we be? It's all about these connections that we have, and these ties, and these experiences. And, like, honestly, I think emotions are the color of the earth, like, of this life, and coming into our earthly experience is all about finding these emotions, because I'm sure you would agree that there's many different kinds of happiness. Yeah. There's many different kinds of sadness. It's like a whole color scale. There's not just one kind of green and one kind of red. It's a scale, and it's the same thing with emotions, and it's so exhilarating to be able to live a life of, let's say, 90 years. And how many emotions do you think you can experience?
A whole lot.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. But then on top of that, it's also how you choose to perceive the emotion itself. Because, like, people will go, I'm sad, and then not be able to figure out why they're sad. But so they're only seeing sadness as, like, green, for example. Once you go deeper and you're like, present enough to, like, feel your emotions and really sit with them, you realize that there's all these different colors of green, like you just said. And that's where it gets like real interesting for me, especially. I'm like, how you choose to perceive them as well. So it's like, all right, nice. It's like I feel sad through a case of happiness because I love this person. This person's going away. Like I'm not going to see them for a while. For me, that sadness isn't a bad emotion at all. Like if I feel sad because someone's passed away, like it's a completely different emotion. But it's still sadness. Exact same way you're saying, but then it's how you choose to perceive those emotions in themselves. So if you choose to perceive as someone going away as a bad thing, you're like, oh nice, I'm not going to see them for ages. That's how you choose to perceive that. But you can perceive the exact same emotion and go, alright nice, I feel sad about this, but I'm real grateful for it because it gives me time to be with myself, and it allows me time to do this or this. And how you choose to then move forward with this, like a real interesting for me. We have this, comes back to free choice. We have this free choice over our emotions. People say don't let your emotions control you. I think it's a really good statement, because it's like if you allowed to go, all right, sadness is the way I am sad, and that's where you operate from. Like you're doing it wrong, because you're perceiving sadness as purely a negative thing. You're perceiving that emotion as this is shit. And I've been through that scale of like perceiving anger as this like negative, like this horrible thing that I don't want to go near. Like anger is not the way forward, and the reason for that is because anger isn't one of these high vibrational happy emotions, so I don't want to go near it. But also because I've experienced so much anger and so much emotion and sadness through my childhood, there's a part of me that's afraid to go back and touch that, or was. But I understand now that anger, like you just said, anger can come from a place of passion and a place of love. And I don't think it's the best way to go about it. Like I think that rather than choose the option to be angry in a situation, you can choose the option to be assertive in a situation, to move through something.
A lot of the times though, you can't, like I think all emotions, you can't really choose.
No, you don't choose.
What you experience. And
but you choose how you perceive.
Yeah.
And how you choose to move forward with them. Yeah.
A lot of reflection and learning about emotions. Like I went to anger management, so I learned a lot about anger. So I used to get I can't remember the last time I was actually angry, but I learned how to reflect and become aware of, okay, something's leading me to be angry, and then I can figure out what's happening.
Yeah.
And then, it can pass, but as with all emotions, so long as you don't hurt anyone, because then that's very different, but so long as you don't hurt anyone, I think it's super important to let them happen. Like what you were saying before, how when you get sad, you kind of put it off and then you have to just face it. I think there's something, again, so beautiful and divine about just like sitting through the motions, not becoming a victim, but observing like, okay, this happened. This is how I'm feeling. I'm not going to suppress it. I'm just going to let it happen.
Yeah.
And then you'll be surprised like how it goes away so quickly.
Yeah, how fast you move away from it. Absolutely. I think it's really interesting because like I compare it to a bit like there's a who is it now? There's a clip of some celebrity, I can't remember who it was. And it's Drake, I think it's Drake. And he talks about how his mum has this almost the exact same philosophy for dealing with when people are talking about you, and how quickly it moves across, it moves away. So it's like something would be posted in the press or whatever, and he would automatically just think, oh, that's it. Like I'm like no one's ever gonna like look at the same, they're never listening to my music, whatever. And his mum rather has this 72-hour rule. So he goes, leave it a day. You'll still wake up. They'll still be talking about you. Leave it 2 days. It's not gonna bother you. You'll be like, it is what it is. 3 days. It's gonna be something completely different in the press. No one's gonna care. It's the same thing with when you choose to let your emotions feel. It really doesn't, like you said, it's a real short space of time, because we don't have time to hold on to this concept, because a new emotion arises, and we have a new event that happens in our life that brings us this different emotion.
Yeah, like just a couple days ago, I was really sad. I was looking forward to something in the near future, and it didn't happen, and I was really sad. And I went and I still, I went to the gym. I cried in the gym after my workout. And then I came back and I cried. And like I was like thinking like I can't just be sad, like Ethan is here. But then I was like, no, like I'll let it flow. Because if I try and like hide it or push it away.
Yeah,
it's gonna get worse.
Yeah,
So
I noticed as well. I was like, no, sure, let her be.
yeah, I just let it flow, and surely enough, after like a few hours, I was back to myself.
Yeah.
And it was like the whole time I was like, this is so sweet. Like, I got so sad like because of this, and
Yeah.
you know. Then
there was the same thing
moves.
when I first came, like the first day, like I just wasn't here.
Mhm.
I don't know where I was. I was just not here. Like I wasn't. I was like talking to you. And I was grateful to be here. Like I was like, oh nice, I'm with my best friend again, great. But like I just wasn't like. My emotions just were like nope.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, I wonder why that is. Like sat myself the night as I got here in bed. I was like, that's bothering me. Like, let me just feel that for a bit. So then next morning I woke up, I was brand new. I was like, what are we gonna do today? And yeah, it's really beautiful. It really is. And gratitude for these things is so important. It really is. I think a lot of people don't realize that. Like, it's great to sit here and go, oh, I love this. I love doing this. This is great. But if you're not constantly, and I don't mean like sitting down and writing like 5 pages every night, going like, I'm grateful for this, and I'm grateful for this, and this, and this.
You gotta feel it.
Yeah, you have
feel
to.
the gratitude.
Very well said. And my dad told me that recently. We were talking about manifestation. He goes, feel the gratitude for the thing that you have. And for so long I was sitting and like, night after night I just write the same like 6 things in my book over and over again. And I had a real simple conversation with him, and it wasn't anything out of the blue, and he goes, on top of writing, make sure you feel the gratitude. And he said that to me and I went, oh, how the fuck have I not been doing that? Like, it's the most simple and basic thing. But to actually sit, like, so if I write down and say like, oh, I'm grateful for my Toyota GR Yaris, for example, like a car that I already have, like I know for a fact it's coming to me. But for so long I'm sitting writing that, and I'm not like taking myself into a place where I'm like, all right, nice, I'm like, or like putting myself in the car and like feeling myself driving it, and the gratitude I have for being able to drive this car. Like I wasn't doing that, but then when you do that, like there's a different feeling that comes over you.
I know.
Like it's incredible. You have like this like, even now just speaking about it, because I'm thinking about me driving this car, like I can't explain it. Like the energy that comes through me when I think about this is really quite insane. And it's intense as well.
Yeah.
And when you do that with gratitude through all parts of your life, like the most important, or not the most important thing, no, sorry, the most important thing for me that I give gratitude every day, even if I don't write it down or I just say it to myself, is I am so grateful for the love and respect I receive from everyone around me. And not just people, but animals, plants, because I know I give it out, and I give it out in abundance. But I also know that I need to receive it back. And I fucking do. I receive this shit out of it.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know fine well. And for me not to be grateful for that, like, is almost, like, the way I look at it, it's like, that's almost so disrespectful to myself and to the universe. Because the universe is going like, yo, you're giving all this out. We are so grateful to you. Let me give you this back tenfold. Because that's really what it is.
Yeah.
Like, I give out a lot, but what I receive back is incredible.
And it's super like unique forms as
exactly. You don't see it coming, which is so beautiful. Like it was, when it comes to like my new job and the way that came about, like I did not see that coming. It just went, oh boom, here's your dream job, enjoy. Like out of nowhere. Or like the other day we went to a restaurant and then we were like paid, and she was a lovely waiter, but she was ran off her feet. And like she struggled for like the first 10 minutes, messed up the order a wee bit, but it was alright. Like, and we were like constantly saying, oh, it's okay, thank you so much, whatever. Because we're not thinking about that, but we're just doing it. Get to the end of the thing, I gave her like a small tip, like it wasn't much, it was what change I had left. And she was so grateful for it. And then we're walking out the door and she goes, oh, this is for you, and hands us a like whole ass box of tea, like this big selection box of tea. And I'm like, excuse me? Like there's other things that happen as well that I'm not going to speak about, but you know fine well what I'm talking about. And it leaves you in such a disbelief. You're like, wow. Like, and that's where the gratitude comes from. It's like, But you have to start by being grateful for things you already have.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most important thing. And then the universe is going to start bringing you all this other stuff, and it's going to just... You're really in it for the ride. Like, it's a whole roller coaster. I'm just experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, my intent's pure, and that's the only thing I need to worry about. Like, is my intention right when I'm doing something? If it feels right, and my intention's right, my heart's in it right, then I'll do it. Like, I don't care. And also my intent for other people in the situation as well. Like, if I'm only just thinking about the positive intent for myself, then for me that's like, I've done that, and that's selfish and it's not the way to go about it. I think about the intent as a collective because I'm part of the collective.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's nothing wrong with putting yourself first in situations. But if putting yourself first in that situation is going to hurt someone else, then it's not the best option in that situation.
I mean, you can think of it as this, like, say we're going down the street and someone has a bunch of apples out.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I'm really hungry, I missed breakfast. My intention would be like, I want to nourish my body and my soul, and I just take an apple and I don't pay. The intention's good.
Yeah. But that leaves the
then,
other person out. They might lose it for their family or whatever.
Well, I mean, the person selling the apples would lose a little bit.
Yeah.
And so...
Whereas if you went up, sorry to interrupt, but if you went up to them and went, excuse me, I'm really hungry, do you mind if I don't have any money, do you mind if I have an apple? The chances of them saying yes to that
very
are
high.
Exponentially high. Like, one apple, they're not going to be like, no. Or like, even out there, like, if you go like, I would love to have an apple, but I don't have, let's say, like, they're charging 50 pence, like, I only have 20p, would that be right? They're going to say yes. Like, 95% of the time, they're going to. But also then, like, if you were to go and take that, karma comes into play as well in the way the universe works.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's divine. Indeed. Well, I think we're all good. I think we spoke about everything I want to speak about. And I'm very, very grateful for I'm very grateful for having you on.
The pleasure was mine.
And it will not be the last, I'm very sure.
No, definitely not.
No, many more to come over many years.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not kicking me that easily. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for a lovely conversation.
You're very welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for watching. It's very much appreciated, as always. And if you ever want to get in contact with me, that can be found on Instagram at the Divine Love Podcast, as well as my personal Instagram, Ethan Torrance, or also my Snapchat. Or just drop a comment and I will most absolutely reply to you. If you want to speak about anything, you want to come on the podcast, or if you just want to ask me a question in general, then by all means, please do. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely week.